I know, technically there's no such thing as boring businesses, but you clicked on it, so somebody might be feeling a little bit self-conscious. But here's the thing. Not every business can get links from fancy influencer campaigns, getting front page stories published all over the place. But if you're a business that's selling something industrial, you're a little bit more B2B, you sell generic products or whatever, you're just a little bit less sexy. How do you get backlinks? Well, today I'm going to show you 6 ways to the backlink mobile. Of course, I'm assuming that you know why we're getting links, right? To help your website's ranking in search. That's the purpose of all of this. So the more links we get from better quality websites, the more that search engines like Google reward your site with ranking, which is incredibly profitable. So that's why we're doing this. We've blown up the rankings in a good way of our clients in lots and lots of different boring industries. We absolutely love working B2B and industrial sites. We win awards with this stuff and we make these clients millions. So I can tell you categorically that being in a boring business does not mean that you cannot do excellent digital marketing. You absolutely can. Anyway, on to the tips. Now we've got 6 tips for you today and we wanted to find a boring business to illustrate and show examples with. We didn't want to use a client, firstly because then we'd have to label one of our clients as boring, which isn't that nice. But secondly, because we'd then be showing all of their competitors exactly what we do for them, which they probably wouldn't be too happy with. So we found an arbitrary business online and we've chosen Trelleborg. If you're watching from Trelleborg, please don't take offense, but you are the most boring business that we could find that is doing excellent marketing. So Trelleborg creates polymer materials that seal, damp, and protect. They basically make polymer seals. Oh. No. Think more boring. So, quick SEO quiz, the best type. How many websites do you think are going to link to a manufacturer of polymer seals? Few hundred? Couple thousand? Try 2 million backlinks from a total of 8,700 referring domains. They've got links from suppliers, from tech firms, from events, they've got stuff from Wikipedia, multiple publications, the list goes on. Like I say, boring businesses can do excellent marketing, particularly using these 6 strategies. Okay, just like couples therapy, strategy 1 starts with you, and particularly the content that you have on your website. One of the main reasons that boring businesses find it difficult to get links is the content on their website is boring too. Just because you're in a boring industry doesn't mean you have to have boring website content. You're not going to get links if you don't have something that is link worthy, if there's something interesting or useful enough for people to actually link to. If you're not sure where to start with creating awesome link-worthy content, then boom, check out this video. But let's talk about an example. So our friends over at Trelleborg are creating polymer seals. How might they create some interesting content on their site? Well, they could think about this in a few different ways. Firstly, they could think about the types of questions that their audience might be asking, comparing the different types of sealant, for example. They could also think even more broadly about some of the topics that the general public would be searching for about sealant. For example, they might be searching for types of sealant. So this is quite an entry-level phrase and doesn't necessarily reflect the customers of a company like Trelleborg. So why would they be interested in writing content on this topic? Well, because when people write about sealant, which they sometimes do, they will often need to link to an article which is an authority on the topic. And when they need to link to an article that is an authority on the topic, where do they go? They go to Google. So we've done this many times for clients where we've got an article ranking for something that is maybe a little bit less niche, a little bit less specific than the topic their customer might be searching for. But we're doing this because it gets picked up by other authors who are then going to link to it when they need a reference. So if we have a look, for example, at a phrase like types of sealant, we can see that this is an informational search, right? The sites that are coming up, it's all information that's ranking. That's good. We know that we can compete in this space then. If we have a look at this first link, for example, we can see that this is a fairly boring article. We can see that they've got bullets here, and that's what's being pulled through into this featured snippet. So if we're going to write something like this, we would also want to use bullets. But what could we do to make this better? Well, we could make it longer. We could break it down by industry to give it more specific and useful information. We can include rich media like pictures, videos, GIFs, memes to actually make this fun and interesting to read. Simple. This isn't just about blog and article content though. This is also about product page content. If your products are being sold by distributors or retailers, you want to make sure that the information on your product pages is really good. Sometimes distributors will link to a product page rather than creating their own content if that product page is really awesome. But if yours is rubbish with hardly any info on, they ain't linking to it. If you're enjoying this video, please subscribe to our channel. We love seeing that subscriber number tick up. And also drop us a comment. What's your business about? Let's have a competition to see who has the most boring business. And then we can all collaborate on finding ways to get you links. Now, just by writing this content, you're going to pick up some links, but really this is just the first step, and you don't want to rely on just picking up links accidentally. You can be a bit more aggressive with this. How? Well, let's say that we've written a better piece than this piece here, and now we want to start going to steal some links from it. This feels a bit horrible, but let's do it anyway. So what we're going to do is we're going to throw this URL into SEMrush, and we're going to have a look at the different websites which are linking to it. We can see the context of these links, and we can see the types of sites that are linking. We can then reach out to these websites and ask if they would like to link to us instead. For example, here we can see an article on 7 DIY tips to soundproof your home on soundproofidea.com. So if we were going to make this article better, what we might do is talk about some of the uses of these different sealants and when they were better than others. One of the considerations that we might make is soundproofing. That would mean that we could then go to this website and say, hey, we noticed that you've linked to this other article, but this doesn't have much information about soundproofing. Our one does. Would you like to link to it instead? Snazzy. Of course, you're not going to have a 100% hit rate, but you never are with link building. The key is persistence. Relentless persistence in the face of constant rejection. Sounds like my teenage dating years. Next up, guest posting. If you're in a boring industry, you will have trade journals in your industry, okay? It's just something that happens in boring industries. There are trade journals, trade magazines that talk about these boring industries and all of the boring things that are going on. By the way, I'm not asterisking or inverting commas on boring anymore, but know that there is really no boring industry. Every industry is extremely interesting once you're in it. Anyway, trade publications. These trade publications need content, and this is your moment to shine. You've got this. I believe in you. So we head over to the old Googs and we type in sealant industry publication. I know you can feel your pulse raising. Breathe deeply. If we click on the first one, adhesivesmag.com, we find an entire world of adhesives and sealants. Now, I want you to put yourself in the minds of the editor or the writers of adhesivesmag.com. I don't know them, but what I do know is every month or every week or every day, they have to fill this website and sometimes a physical publication with interesting information. And in some industries, that is not always easy. Now, this is where you come in. If you have a take, if you have an angle, if you have an interesting voice in your industry, you can provide content for sites exactly like this. Here's how you do it. Firstly, you make a list of all of the publications in your industry. Then you have a look at the types of topic they cover. For example, we can see this publication is talking about war in Ukraine. We can see that they're talking about some acquisition stuff. We can see about surcharges. We can scan through this website and see the sort of types of topic that they're covering. And if we go back over time, we can see the recurring themes, the stuff that they're always talking about. The next thing you want to do is think about what you can add to this space. What's your voice? What's your take on things which is slightly different? Now, when you're doing this, don't necessarily think about how you can work your product or service in there, how you could turn this into a big advertising opportunity. That's not the approach to take here. The approach to take here is almost to treat yourself as a freelance journalist writing for this publication at no charge. What you're going to do is you're going to write for them interesting content which their audience is going to be interested in reading about. You're going to then link to your business. You're going to get a link in your author byline in your bio. That's fine. But your focus should be on how you can add value to this publication and the readers, rather than thinking, how can I work my product in so this thing reads like an advert? He. The next thing you're going to do is reach out to each of the publications. You can either do this through the contact page and contact the publication itself, or you can find the writers who are writing for it, particularly if that writer has written about your topics in the past, and contact them directly. And it's best when you're pitching ideas to have a few different topics which you could pitch on. If you just reach out and say, hey, I'd love to be featured in your magazine, have you got any suggestions of things I should write about? That's a bit of a turn-off. Really, you want to go to them and say, hey, I've been a long-time reader, I know this industry inside and out, and I've got some ideas for some really interesting things which I think your audience could be interested in. And then list a few so that they can pick the one that they think is going to get the most traction. And by the way, if you're stuck for topics, this video should help. And don't forget, when you're pitching your ideas, explain why you specifically are the person to write about this topic. Let's say, for example, that you are a lawyer or a solicitor specializing in small business claims. Well, that specialism makes you an authority in that topic. So you could then reach out to small business publications with legal advice because you are a specialist in small business claims. Cool? All right. Tip 4, unlinked brand mentions. So an unlinked brand mention is sometimes somebody has written about your business online, but they haven't linked to your website. So it's a brand mention, but they haven't linked it. Unlinked brand mentions. These are gold for an SEO perspective because you've essentially already done the hard work in that somebody is already talking about you. You just need to pick up the link. Now they can be quite difficult to find. They're quite difficult to just happen upon because being unlinked means that you don't tend to see them. But there's a couple of tools that can help. First is Google Alerts. With Google Alerts, you can just set up an alert so that anytime somebody publishes something online with your brand name in, you get notified. You can then check the content and make sure you've got the link. If you haven't, reach out to them and say, hey, you've talked about us, but you haven't linked to us. Please do. Another useful tool is SEMrush's brand monitoring tool. This allows you to dig through the internet archives and find times that your brand has been mentioned but not linked. And by the way, if you want a free trial of SEMrush so you can test this and loads of other awesome functionality out, you can go to thankyoninjas.com. We've negotiated a 30-day free trial for them, which isn't publicly available, so go and grab it now. Boring business link building strategy 5, digital PR. Digital PR for boring companies. Are you nuts, Tim? Yes, but it still works. In fact, some of the best digital PR is done by boring businesses, particularly ones that have their own data. But even if you don't have your own data, you can find data that's already out there and turn it into interesting digital PR. Let me show you a killer example. This is Clario, and they're a cybersecurity company. Now, cybersecurity is really boring until you need it, or if you needed it but you didn't have it. Cybersecurity is super boring. But what Clario have done is instead of thinking about who is our customers, they've thought, what is the general public interested in, which we have expertise in? Now, all Clario has done is they've spent some time looking at which of these different technology platforms uses our personal data and which personal data they use. This isn't a particularly difficult thing to do. This is all publicly available information. Somebody has just spent like a decent afternoon going through and collecting it all, putting it in an infographic. But all of a sudden, it takes something that is potentially niche, cybersecurity, and turns it into something which has relevance to all of us. They've presented it in a really good way, particularly making Facebook, everyone's favorite pantomime villain of the moment, the worst offender and highlighting it at number 1. Results? Well, they did some outreach on this. They've had 6,000 backlinks, and it's estimated that this page alone is bringing 288,000 visitors to their website every month. Now, that's not qualified traffic. That's not people coming to Clario to sign up. Let's be 100% clear here. But what is happening is those links will be building the credibility and the authority of this website so that it ranks better for the commercial terms that it's targeting. Okay? And of course, you can use the classic Publicity stunt. Our friends over at Trello Board have a Guinness World Record for the largest O-ring ever produced. They built a 364 meter circumference O-ring and laid it all around Tewkesbury Abbey. They've even got some behind the scenes videos of the incredible achievement. What's the point of making a 364 meter circumference O-ring, you may ask? Well, I don't know, but they did get a link from Wikipedia. Here you can see the world's largest O-ring was produced in a successful Guinness World Record attempt. They've got an unlinked brand mention, but it's okay because down here in the citations, they have the link that they so richly deserve for this fantastic achievement. Boring business link building strategy numero 6 is supplier, distributor, and retailer links. This one is really simple. Who are you supplying? Who are you working with? Who do you partner with? Think of all of the different businesses that you have business relationships with. Often these businesses will mention you or their suppliers or the companies that they work with, the manufacturers that they use on their website, and they will often use the logos of these manufacturers, but they won't always link to the manufacturer or to the business. If this sounds like a bit of you, then you can chase those companies and you can say, hey, fantastic, thanks for using our logo on your site. Is there any chance that you would link it so that people can find us if they want to? Going back to our friends in Trelleborg, if we look at the dealer locator, we can see that there are lots and lots of different dealers of their products. So one thing that we could do would be to reach out to all of these, and if they're using the Trelleborg logo or they mention Trelleborg on their website, say, it's now our policy to ask people to link back to our website, open it in a new tab if they want so that you're not stealing that traffic. Now you'll find that people are more open to this if you're not selling direct, so you're not actually directly competing with them, but it's a great way of picking up links. Now, even if you can't do that, you can use one of my favorite, neatest tricks in the book here. If you think about all the software companies, the marketing companies, wink wink, that you use, you can then reach out to these companies and offer them a killer testimonial. We've been working with Exposure Ninja for 2 years now. They have transformed our business. We are completely unrecognizable thanks to fantastic work that they're doing and the volume of leads and sales that they're generating. Now, when you send this testimonial over to your software providers, your marketing company, your cybersecurity companies, your training companies, you're going to say, when you use this on your website, please include a link back to our site. If you've given them a killer testimonial, they won't be able to resist using it in not only on their website, but in their marketing materials. And each time they do, at worst, you're going to get an unlinked brand mention. At best, though, you're going to get a juicy backlink to your site. If you want some help with your digital marketing, the awesome team here at Exposure Ninja have a completely free service to help you generate more leads and sales through your website. It's called the Free Website and Marketing Review. All you need to do is go to our website at exposureninja.com, click the big button to request your review. We'll ask you a few questions about your business, your goals, and your current digital marketing. Our super team of ninjas will then go and do some research. They'll analyze your site, they'll analyze your current digital marketing, your competitors, and they'll chunk all of this into an amazing plan which they'll send to you as a video completely free within 2 to 3 working days. It's killer. So go to exposureninja.com, request your free website and digital marketing review today. Now. Go now. Yeah. So there you have it. 6 ways to build backlinks for boring businesses. There is actually one more. If you go to the article linked in this description, you will see that there is an additional way to build backlinks. There's a little reward for you going to check out the original article. And don't forget, you can get a free copy of our best-selling SEO book, How to Get to the Top of Google. Again, there'll be a link for that in the description. Until next time, see you soon.